Once upon a time, there was a Japanese boy named Jero, and one night he had a very strange dream. In this dream, Jero found himself wandering late at night through the dark, empty corridors of an unfamiliar school. As Jero walked through the silent corridors, an unsettling feeling swept over him. The school seemed much larger and more confusing than his own, the corridors twisting and turning as if the building were an endless labyrinth. No matter which way he went, Jero always ended up back where he'd started. Jero tried to open doors and windows, but they were all locked. Panic gripped him as he realized he was trapped inside this mysterious school. He started to call out, but his voice only echoed eerily through the empty hallways. Jero began to run, running from one corridor to another, desperately looking for a way out. As he rounded a corner, Jero suddenly heard a faint sound in the distance, the chiming of a clock. Following the sound, he reached a long corridor, at the end of which he noticed an emergency exit door. But as Jero approached the door, his heart clenched. The glass box that should have held the key was completely shattered, and the key was nowhere to be found. Jero looked around and then noticed a note taped to the wall next to the door. Squinting in the darkness, he read the words, "The key is in classroom 108. Without thinking, Jero hurried down the hallway toward the classroom, his footsteps echoing ominously. As he approached the door, a new sound made him freeze in place. The faint but unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps gradually grew louder. Haunted by fear, Jero quickly opened the classroom door and slipped inside, closing it quietly behind him. The room was completely dark, and Jero could barely make out the rows of desks and backpacks hanging from the chairs. He began searching frantically, opening drawers and rummaging through bags, desperate to find the elusive key. Meanwhile, the ominous footsteps grew closer and closer. Jero's heart pounded frantically as he continued his frantic search, fearful of being discovered. The footsteps fell silent just outside the classroom door. Jero held his breath, praying that he wouldn't be found. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped, and the school was eerily silent. After what seemed like an eternity, Jero cautiously approached the door and peered out into the hallway. What he saw made his blood run cold. The corridor was strewn with the dismembered bodies of children, their limbs twisted and contorted. Jero recoiled in horror at the gruesome sight, slammed the door shut, and stepped back in utter bewilderment. Shivering, Jero backed away from the door, his thoughts swirling around haphazardly. What was this nightmare? Where was he, and how could he escape? At that moment, his hand came across something metallic in one of the desk drawers. Holding his breath, Jero pulled it out. It was a key. Without thinking, he rushed to the emergency exit and began frantically trying to unlock the door. After what seemed like an eternity, Jero heard a satisfying click and the door swung open. Wasting no time, he sprinted through the exit and ran toward the light at the end of the hallway. As Jero reached the exit, the first golden rays of dawn peeked through the windows. Covering his eyes from the sudden brightness, he blinked and his vision slowly readjusted. When it recovered, Jero found himself in his familiar bedroom, covered in sweat and shivering. Jero rose to his feet with relief and realized that it was all just a dream, a horrible nightmare, but a dream nonetheless. Though he was shaking, he was grateful to be safely awake and out of this gloomy school. It was scary, but at the same time a reminder of how important it was to remain calm and focused, even in the most frightening of situations. Jero knew he would never forget the horrors he had witnessed in this nightmarish place, but he hoped he would never have to face them again. As the morning sun rose outside the window, Jero took a deep, calming breath. He was home, he was safe, and this was all just a dream. Gradually, the trembling in his hands began to subside. Jero knew that the memory of this nightmare would stay with him, but he was determined not to let it haunt him. With that determination, Jero got up and began his day, grateful for the comfort of familiar surroundings. Although the dream had been terrifying, he took comfort in the fact that it was over and he was still here, alive and ready to face any day.